everybody. Just started to assemble these, so you can just see this is like this is why it's called an H block, because if you look at it from there it looks like an H, and it's a habitation block, and you see that like if I just grab a mini a second, to give you a sense of scale, these are not ginormous. However, I'm figuring that these are actually for the Japanese sector, and in the vein of that, it's high density housing. So having 14 weenie flats in a sort of stack like this, I think it makes sense. It fits in with me in my mind with the sort of Japanese way of living these days. So I just want to show you how I'm assembling these quickly. Well, at least this first initial H section. This is going to be done over a series of videos because each bit is quite consuming in its own right. So first of all, make sure everything is configured the right way around. So making sure that the markings are, in this case, orientated so that the stairwell end is, so this line will be for interior doors. So these go together like this. This is a partition wall. Make sure that the bottom is the bottom so that the different floors are set up. So this is all going to go together like this. You see I have a box out. So what I'm actually doing is I'm using the box for lining everything up. Now, super glue and Powellite. Powellite works really well with super glue. It forms an incredibly strong bond, and that's really amazing. Except it sticks pretty much instantly. So I've already done 3 and I've only messed it up a little teeny weeny bit. I haven't messed it up horribly at all, but yeah, get your alignments right. I might even go so far as to say that I'm not doing enough to achieve that, and I should probably have the steel rule down so that I'm using that to line everything up and butt everything together. So what I'm using the box for is to butt this piece, and I'm trying to line everything up before just firmly pushing it together. And I'm just checking by using this piece that I'm actually gluing it to a 90-degree angle. Ooh. It does glue virtually instantly, but that first piece, because it's just one line, very weak. Now for the second piece I am applying glue along. Now you see why I've got the lines double. It indicates to me keep the glue in between these lines and you're good to go. So I'm just running, I am using like a long nozzle because you can actually spot glue these together. Guy I was watching, if you check early videos it will give you a link to his blog spot, but it's the tutor from St Martin's who does modelling. He talks about you can spot. Now again, get the alignment right. As ever, do not rush. Trying to get it right in. Get it right first time. Get the alignment and then just push it all together. Now if I move it away from this box, just want to force in together the middle section where there's sort of slight bowing. Push the bottom in together. Now super glue does take a little bit of time, but once you've got it to this kind of stage it starts to go rigid. It starts to become very solid. And like I said, the first thing I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to make a solid structure so that everything else has something to hang from. And once you've got a basic solid structure, it's much easier to manipulate. So again, this piece I will put the glue directly onto. running it down in between in the line that I marked whilst I was constructing. Now, thing about hand cutting is you are never completely accurate. So there is an element of fitting, and fitting is it's kind of a builder's term really. You have fitters and joiners, right? So a joiner is sort of the person that makes the piece, but the fitter is the person that actually fits it into place. And the thing about a fitter is their job really is to take bits off from around the edges in order to make it fit exactly into the space that it needs to go into. And certainly in making these I've already started to see where the misalignments are, and then I'm sticking stuff and it's gluing instantaneously, and I don't want to tear it off because I don't want to damage it. So every step of the way there is going to be stuff to do. So again, I'm looking from the top down, checking my alignments. I'm using my fingers here as a bit of a guide as well. What I want is to get that flush close to 90 degrees as possible on all angles. And this is important because, well, if you mess this stage up, you're going to have real problems when you're setting the floors. This is also why I haven't made all the pieces, because the other thing you can see now that I've got those is just over here I have, so then these floors are the floors that will get slotted in, because you can see it's a pretty good fit. But they'll all need to be glued in, but not yet. There are some other things I'm going to do first. So the next phase, having done this, I'm just going to move this to one side and grab one which is a bit drier, or been sat around a bit longer, is where there's overlaps. Overlaps here, overlaps here. I'm actually just going to grab some sandpaper and start sanding that off. Just going to grab some medium grain and a block, and I will just sand back these edges. So every step of the way there's going to be finishing like this to do, and I mean you can see like there's a slight gap here. That's going to be a pain later, but I'll just make it work around that for the minute. It might come to having to fill it. So yeah, there you go. There's your basic H block. And yeah, also you can see that this is a tall building. So although I think so far it's cost about, well, it's cost about 25 quid, doesn't it? So maybe 30 quid, 7.56 I think it was for 20 sheets of A2 of the PAL light. And so far I would have, well, it's going to, including all the other bits that I need to do, it would have taken up 7 sheets of that. Super glue you can pick up at Poundland for £1, so just do that, or whatever your local discount store is. But you can see that out of 7 sheets, so for like not even 25 quid, I mean, by the time I've painted them it might have gone up to 30 quid or something, but it's like for 30 quid you can get 4 very tall buildings. The other thing you can't see at the moment is when these sides go on, there will be the extra elevation. Hence I decided to bring the stairwells coming up onto the roof, because I wanted this sort of high blocking, so that on the roof level there's still a sort of terrain line of sight blocking feature. So I'm just going to crack on with sanding these down. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got like a small block. It's actually a whetstone, but you just need a small block. I've got some rough grade paper, and I'm using the rough just to take the edges back. I mean, there's a bit of wiggle in it, but that's just the material, it has give. But it sounds back, what you notice is the rough grade actually leaves a mark, it leaves a grain. I did see an interesting video which showed using a rough grade to just giving it a light run over with rough grade on like the smooth surfaces, and then painting it up as well. So what I'm doing is I'm just using the rough grade to take any edges back, so that everything's balanced out as possible. On these sides where the width is not quite right, I'll give it a rough sanding, but don't really want to. I don't want to take that back too hard because I don't want to mess up the dimensions on the front edge. Giving the top edge, and then I'm just swapping out from that to some fine grade. This is like the actually smoother stuff, and just where I want flush edges, neat edges. Yeah, some of these bits, if you just need to clean them up where you've messed up some of the knife work. Now at some point I've been thinking I'll probably just sand the edge between here and here down, but not until I've put the partition wall in between the parking bays, just so it looks like a car can pull in, because one of the things I'm keen on is making stuff where you don't have a separate base. As soon as you have a separate base that this is mounted on, then it's like, oh, that base will only sit on the kind of scenery that's the same as that kind of base. The other reason sanding down the top edges of these walls a bit is just to get a nice sort of a smooth polished finish, so that you don't end up with a sort of rough edge on the wall. So yeah, this is stage 1 of the expert. I hope it's been some use to you. Stage 2 coming soon. Have a good and take care everybody, and I will catch you later. Bye bye.